Well, the race is on to get people around the world vaccinated for the coronavirus as quickly as possible. But with limited vaccine supply, some are arguing for more single doses now and stretching the time frame to that second dose. That's what's being done in the UK. Should the U.S. do the same? We're joined by Professor Greg Lemke with the Salk Institute for Biological Studies. Professor Lemke, welcome.
Thank you.
So how critical, with these two-dose vaccines, how critical is that second dose and the time frame that goes with it?
So with the vaccines that we've got approved in the United States now, it's essential that you have a second dose. So they're all set up. The Moderna and the Pfizer vaccine are both, their protocols for vaccination are set up to have a second dose. That second dose right now is scheduled to be about a month after the first.
Well, in the UK, they're stretching this.
In the UK, you mentioned it. Yeah, so in the UK, one of the things they're trying to push out is to extend the time for that second dose. So they basically want to immunize more folks in the general population, and to push back the time of the second dose. So you got to have the second dose. In the UK, that second dose is going to be extended from anywhere from 8 to perhaps as long as 12 weeks after the initial immunization.
And in your opinion, and I don't know that you've worked specifically on either of these vaccines that have been approved thus far, or how much you necessarily may know about them, but 12 weeks, is that going to just make it not matter that you get the second dose? I mean, at that length of time, is the first dose already wasted?
So that's a really good question. You got to have the second dose. So the first dose of these vaccines, because the immune system only sees the spike protein antigen that you're trying to mount an immune response to for a short period of time, you don't mount the strongest possible response. So if you check antibodies over time, you get that first shot. After a week to 2 weeks, you start producing antibodies. You produce antibodies for a period of time, and then those fall off. You give that second shot, and now that second shot has two consequences. One is it greatly boosts the level of antibodies in your body, and it improves the quality of those antibodies. All right, so those are two important things in terms of fighting the infection. The other thing that second dose really does is to drive the production of what are called memory cells in your immune system that give you long-term protection. So there's no question you got to have that second dose, and I would say in general, you probably got to think about having that second dose within 12 weeks of the first dose.
We don't have a lot of time left, but I do want to ask you about the Johnson & Johnson vaccine, which only takes one dose, hasn't been approved yet. But why is that the case, basically, that you can get away with one shot with that vaccine?
So it comes down to the difference between the way the vaccine actually works. So the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines are both mRNA vaccines, where basically mRNA, the messenger RNA that encodes the spike protein of the virus that you want to make antibodies to, is delivered into cells directly. And that mRNA doesn't hang around too long. The J&J vaccine also delivers genetic information to encode the spike protein, but it uses a benign virus called an adenovirus to do that, to get the genetic information into cells. And that's in the cells for a longer period of time. And so your immune system has a longer period of time to respond to it. So that's why the J&J vaccine can get away with a single dose, whereas you need a dose and a boost with the Moderna and the Pfizer vaccines.
Gotcha. And not necessarily that one is better than the other?
Not at this point. Well, the J&J vaccine hasn't actually reported yet. We're hoping to see the first reports on the clinical trials of the J&J vaccine in probably the next couple of weeks. One of the problems we have right now with the J&J vaccine is actually with the company producing enough of the vaccine to actually immunize people with it once it becomes available. This is a general problem we're facing in the short term right now, is we got a lot more people who should be vaccinated than we have vaccine. So we're really working on that. We'll be ramping up over the next period of months, I think by the middle of the year it won't be an issue, but it is an issue right now.
I know for a lot of people it can't come fast enough. Professor Greg Lemke with the Salk Institute for Biological Studies, thank you so much for your time.
My pleasure. Thank you.